is never better than when you spend early morning spending time with God. I'm Pastor W. Lonnie Herndon. I want you to get ready for morning meditations. Listen to one of our ministers of the gospel share a word that's going to bless your life as you begin your day.
Good morning and welcome to Compassion's Morning Meditations. I am Pastor Kenneth Blair, and my scripture this morning is coming from Psalms 90, 13 through 17, but focusing on verse 14. And it reads as such: O Lord, come back to us. How long will you delay? Take pity on your servants. Satisfy us each morning with your unfailing love, so we may sing for joy to the end of our lives. Give us gladness in proportion to our former misery. Replace the evil years with good. Let us, your servants, see your work again. Let our children see your glory. And may the Lord our God show us his approval and make our efforts successful. Yes, make our efforts successful. Psalms 90 is a passage of scripture, is a prayer written by Moses unto God. It is best known as a prayer in the wilderness. It describes the experiences of Moses in Numbers chapter 20, where he deals with the death of his sister Miriam, the sins of himself in striking the rock, and the death of his brother Aaron. Life for us, like Moses, can be difficult and hard as it was for Moses and the Israelites. However, Moses spends the first 12 verses of this scripture emphasizing the pain and the struggle of the time, but then rather concluding with asking God to come back to them. Moses could have gone on and on about his struggles of life, but rather he decided to deal with the reality of the situation. Moses understood that he was dealing with the judgment of God, and he was now asking God to have mercy and compassion on them. In this particular verse, Moses considers the judgment of God, and yet his prayerful response is a plea for God to return to his people, have compassion on them, have mercy on them, and return his unfailing love covenant unto them. Moses asks God not to delay in bringing back his compassion and his mercy, for he understood that it was only by God's mercy and compassion that the people of God had not been consumed. But then we come to our key verse in verse number 14, where Moses brings about a bigger point. Moses asks the Lord to satisfy your people each morning with your unfailing love, so that we might sing for joy to the ends of our lives. Each morning, God's servants turn to God for blessings of being able to serve and live faithfully before God by the grace of God. Each morning, you and I can experience God's steadfast love for us in our lives and through our experiences. God's servants do not need to live under God's anger, but can rejoice in God each day and find happiness in God. But I also looked at the text and had to ask God another question. Why did Moses ask God to return his spirit, his presence, his love, and his unfailing joy to his people? Of all the things that Moses could have asked for in his time of pain, in his time of anguish, why did Moses' satisfaction come from the place of God's return? Well, my brothers and sisters, today I ask the same question to you. Why does your satisfaction be rooted in the areas of God rather in the things of materialistics? Moses understood that true satisfaction was not rooted in money, fame, romance, and pleasure, or our personal success. But true satisfaction comes from having the presence of God, the mercies of God, and his faith and unfailing love towards his people. Moses was simply saying, I can have everything in this world, but if I do not have you, Lord, I have nothing. And is there anybody this morning that can testify that if I am just satisfied that I have God's presence, God's love in my life? Yes, money is great. Yes, my possessions are nice. Yes, all of those great things are wonderful. But Lord, I just want you. And if you, God, return back to me, I'll get my life together. If you, God, return back to me, I will be more satisfied than I've ever been satisfied before. Is there anybody this morning that can testify that in everything in my life, I can say today that it was the love of God, it was the presence of God that completely makes me satisfied. The text closes in verse 17, and it says, and Moses prays to the Lord and asks that God would satisfy the people, but not only just him, but Moses wanted his children to be satisfied with God's presence. Moses wanted his children and his grandchildren and his offspring to experience the pleasures of God. He says in the text, let your servants see your good work again. Let our children, oh God, see your glory. And whatever we touch our hands to do, God, let us have your seal of approval. So I stopped by just this morning to remind somebody, be satisfied with just the presence of God. Focus on having the love of God in your life. And I promise you that if you have God's everlasting love, everlasting presence, everything else in your life will be all right. Thank you for tuning in to Compassion's Morning Meditation. We are here every morning at 7 a.m. Be blessed.